Alright, 7th graders, listen up. There's a new sheriff in town. Mr. Griner's taking over, and we're going to have a little fun today with ratios. So let's dive in and find out what those are about. Remember, take notes on everything, all the examples, all the keywords. Pause the video if you need to. Alright. There we go. Ratio is a comparison of two quantities by division. Most commonly you see these written as fractions. You're comparing the first number to the second number. And if you see in the box down here, a couple examples, we can write a ratio 3 different ways. We can put the first number and put the word 2, and then the second number. We can use a colon, which is read the same way, 3, 2, 9. And then we have our traditional fraction. This is the most common way to write a ratio. We can do this with numbers, or in algebra or pre-algebra, we use variables, and we can use it the same way. A to B, A to B, and then A over B, or comparing A to B as a fraction also. So that's the 3 ways we write fractions or ratios. Most commonly we use a fraction. So let's do a few examples to look at what we're dealing with ratios today. Example 1. Express the ratio 12 baskets in 18 attempts. So, you know, most of you play basketball. If you have 18 shots and you make 12 of them, a lot of you want to know your shooting percentage, maybe free throws. This is a way to represent that number as a ratio or a fraction. So the first number, 12, goes on top of our fraction, and then our total attempts are the second number goes on the bottom. So you see down here we have 12 over 18, and we always write our ratios and fractions in simplest form. And so we look for a common, or greatest common factor for both numbers, 12 and 18. Well, 6 goes into both of them. So if I take 12 divided by 6, I get 2. 18 divided by 6, I get 3. So my ratio is 2/3. So what this means, I guess in English terms, that means a couple things. Every 3 shots I attempted, I made 2 of them. Or you could say I made 2/3 of the shots that I attempted. But the ratio is 2 to 3. So you made 2 out of every 3 shots you attempted. Second example, 10 out of every 30 Americans own a portable MP3 player. That's probably not true anymore, but let's say it is. 10 out of every 30. So out of is kind of our ratio word. That's one. We use per a lot. Okay, miles per hour is a ratio. So out of and per are some keywords for fractions or ratios. So 10 out of every 30 Americans, excuse me, own a portable MP3. So first number 10 out of 30. So I put 10 over 30 or 10 out of 30. That's my comparison. I want to write it as a fraction in simplest form. So 10 and 30, well, they can both be divided by 10. 10 divided by 10 is 1. 30 divided by 10 is 3. So I have 1/3 or 1/3 ratio. And again, what this means is, 1 out of every 3 Americans owns an MP3. Or I could say 1/3 of all Americans own an MP3 player. A couple ways to express it verbally, or what these fractions actually represent. Alright, and then our last example, this one involves a little more work, because when we're comparing ratios and we have two things completely unrelated, we just write the fraction. So I go back a couple slides, I'm comparing baskets to attempts. Here I'm comparing 10 out of 3 Americans, so the same thing. Here I have ounces and pounds, and while they're not the same, they're related. And so if I have two things that are related, I have to put them in the same, I guess, term, or same label. So let's first write this as a fraction. Okay, so 8 ounces to 3 pounds. So I start by putting 8 over 3, right here, 8 over 3. But in order to make this a common fraction, I have to have the same thing for both numerator and denominator. So I have to take the 3 pounds and turn them into ounces. And you see I do that right here. But how did I do that? Well, I know there's 16 ounces in a pound. If you don't know that, you have this fancy tool called Google. Use it and you can find out how many ounces are in a pound. And there's other things, quarts, pints, liters, all that stuff that we might run into, that right now Google is your best tool to look that stuff up. So I have 3 pounds, there's 16 ounces in a pound, 3 times 16 gives me 48. So now I have ounces over ounces. I can reduce that down. Well, 8 and 48, the number 8 goes into both of them. So I divide them both by 8. And I get 1 over 6. 1 ounce over 6 ounces. And again, if I want to write what that means in English, or say what it means the first item is 1/6 the weight of the second item. Or, I take 6 of the first item to equal the second item. A lot of ways to put it. So ratios, really what we're looking for today is, writing it as a comparison as a fraction, first number over second number, and then write it in simplest form. The ones we got to look out for is when you have, these comparisons of weight, stuff like that, ounces, pounds, capacity, all that mumbo jumbo. All right. So that's what we're doing today. I think you've had this before, so it's pretty straightforward. Simplifying fractions, look for the GCF, biggest number that goes into both the numerator and denominator. Have a wonderful day.